A patient presents with a recurrent infection. What would be the reason? Over 90% of patients affected with hepatitis B can get rid of the virus. But why do 5 to 10% of the patients develop chronic hepatitis B? Why do some patients suffer from allergies? For example, allergic rhinitis. Why does a defect in antigen presenting cell signaling would affect immune function? What is antigen presentation? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rahmatil alameen. Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to try to discuss the answer for all of these questions, and usually one word answer would be immunity, immune function. So what is immunity? Of course, immunity means the ability of the body to protect it from invasion of microorganisms as well as from autoimmunity, and to help the body to develop memory against most of the microorganisms. Now, before we jump into immunity and immune function, you should know what is leukocytes, which means production of white blood cells. So what is the classification of white blood cells? Now you would know, usually the major classification is granulocytes and agranulocytes. And in granulocytes, there are eosinophils, basophils, and neutrophils. And there's one more, you can say white blood cell, which is not part of the granulocyte, but of course it is a part of myelocyte, and its name is monocyte. So monocytes are the largest white blood cells circulating in the blood, monocytes. And when they migrate into the tissues, they are known as macrophages. So these are the white blood cells. And the agranulocytes are lymphocytes, T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. This was a quick overview of the production of white blood cells and the classification. Now the main topic is immunity, which has already been defined. Now there are two basic types of immunity: innate immunity and adaptive immunity. Innate immunity is the immunity which is present by birth, at birth. And there are three main components. The first component is barriers. We have barriers, such as the skin. The skin protects us, it acts as a barrier. Now the other components here, or for example, are cilia, which are part of the respiratory system. Then we have hydrochloric acid, which is produced by the stomach, parietal cells, and play an important role in protection against many microorganisms, because our atmosphere is full of microorganisms. And then you can say the saliva, production of saliva. It has also immune properties. This was the first part, barriers. The second part is the cellular component. So there are certain white blood cells, as already discussed, which are part of the innate immunity. Number one, neutrophils, then macrophages, then natural killer cells. These are part of the innate immunity, the cellular component. So whenever a microorganism gets some way inside the body or tries to invade any organ, there are already certain macrophages inside the organ. For example, in liver they are known as Kupffer cells. In lungs they are known as alveolar macrophages. So we have microglial cells in the nervous system. So they try to protect. Then the lymph nodes, the spleen, which acts as an army. You have so many macrophages and lymphocytes within the spleen. So of course, most of the cells which are part of the innate immunity are usually, as mentioned earlier, neutrophils, macrophages, natural killer cells, and they make the cellular defense. But it is non-specific. They have no memory. Now, the neutrophils have no memory, and it's a non-specific immunity. The third component is proteins, which take part in the innate immunity. For example, the complement system. So complement system is a series of protein produced by the liver, and which can be activated through various pathways, and at the end you get a rocket-shaped complex C56789, which helps to penetrate the microorganisms. Our own cells are protected from this destruction, and if we lack those proteins, we can suffer from certain diseases, as discussed in a video in hemolytic anemia, paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, and you can just search for it in the channel and get that video. So usually we have protection, but not the microorganisms. So this is also part of innate immunity. For example, the gram-negative bacteria, they can activate this system and they will get destroyed. So this is innate immunity. Present by birth, non-specific, no memory. Now we come to adaptive immunity. So in adaptive immunity, we have two: humoral immunity and cellular immunity, or cell-mediated, not cellular, sorry, cell-mediated immunity. So humoral immunity means production of antibodies. So how are antibodies produced? Antibodies are produced with a sophisticated mechanism and process, which is antigen presentation. So what I'm trying to say here is antigen presentation is a process in which antigen is presented to T lymphocytes, which are also part of the adaptive immunity. So you have certain types of T lymphocytes, for example, helper T lymphocytes, cytotoxic T lymphocytes, and T regulatory lymphocytes. So CD4 is expressed by helper T lymphocytes. So if T lymphocytes express CD4, they are helper T lymphocytes. If T lymphocytes express CD8, so they are cytotoxic T lymphocytes, which are part of the cell-mediated immunity. And these cytotoxic T lymphocytes, they destroy virus-infected cells. They destroy them. So these cytotoxic T lymphocytes helps the body to get rid of virus-infected cells, and as well as certain cancer cells. So they do not require any antibodies for such actions. So they play an important role in cell-mediated immunity. So now CD4, it's helper T lymphocytes. CD8, it's cytotoxic T lymphocytes. And CD25, usually it's expressed abundantly by the T regulatory lymphocytes, which helps us to pause the immune response or to stop the immune response. So immune response should not be exaggerated, it should be balanced. So when we get rid of the microorganism, that's it. So immune response should be stopped. So that's where regulatory T lymphocytes become functional. Now a very, very important, the sixth point, the bridge between innate immunity and adaptive immunity. So what are APCs? APC stands for antigen presenting cells. So as the name indicates, usually they are involved in antigen presentation. So it means when a microorganism, for example, a bacteria, is trying to invade any organ, invade any part of the body, innate immunity comes into action. But that's not end of the story. So when the macrophages or neutrophils, they phagocytose, so it's degraded the microorganism, and maybe we get an antigen or any protein which can generate an immune response. So antigen is any substance which can generate an immune response. So when it is degraded, so the APC means it can be B lymphocytes, macrophages, or dendritic cells. So these are three kind of APCs. So they present helper T lymphocytes, which have T cell receptor and a marker known as CD4. So these two receptors, this marker should be present without any defect to have a strong immunity. And for APCs, they express MHC II, major histocompatibility complex 2, which facilitate to present the antigen, for example, phagocytosed antigen, the star-shaped, a degraded protein, this antigen to helper T lymphocytes. And once this happens, these helper T lymphocytes are activated and they stimulate B lymphocytes to become large plasma cells, and they produce a specific antibody against that microorganism. And also a clone of these lymphocytes is also formed, which represent memory B cells. So these memory B cells now can spread out throughout the body in different lymph nodes, lymphoid tissues, and a strong memory would be present in our body if the same microorganism attacks again. So that's why the adaptive immunity is specific antibody, has a memory, and is long lasting as opposed to innate immunity. So MHC II is expressed by only APCs, and this is the first signal. And just to a quick, there is also one more signal. Here is B7 and here is CD28. So this is the second signal, this is the first signal. The first signal, the second signal. So both of these two signals should be normal functioning for the specific immune response. And for cytotoxic, the cell-mediated immunity, usually they are expressed as explained earlier CD8, and they usually target the virus-infected cells. And those cells, all those body cells usually, all the body cells, they present MHC I. So in APCs is MHC II, but only APCs. The MHC I is expressed by all body cells. And if they get, any of the body cell gets infected by a virus or any, maybe it can be a precancerous cell, so the cell membrane maybe expresses certain proteins, the maybe damaged protein, the viral protein through MHC I, and then these cells, the CD8 cytotoxic T lymphocytes, target those specific cells. So this is cell-mediated immunity. Now the last point is antibodies. You know there are 5 classes of antibodies, but I would just try to brief about IgA, which is usually present in the fluids, and the other 2 important are IgM and IgG. Now IgM is usually produced earlier in the infection, for example acute infection. For example, if there is vaccination against hepatitis B, so there are 3 doses, maybe in the first dose there is IgM, or even if a patient is infected but the body or immunity is strong enough and it moves towards resolution against the infection, so initially there will be IgM antibody production, and then maybe after that there will be IgG type antibody. So IgG is the most abundant circulating antibody and long lasting, maybe present for many years. And this antibody can only cross the placenta. One more specific feature about this antibody: no other antibody can cross the placenta. And the last one is the IgE. IgE, just remember from E and allergy E. So this IgE is usually increase the titer in allergic conditions. Allergic IgE. So these were the 5 different type of antibodies. These antibodies usually circulating helps in opsonization, a special type of phagocytosis. Also helps to activate the complement system to attack the microorganisms. So these antibodies are very helpful in humoral immunity, in adaptive immunity. So I do hope I have given a brief overview. Of course, it's an extensive topic, but I tried to make it brief, concise, yet comprehensive. And I outlined the points, the high yield points here. But if there are any specific questions, you can mention in the comment section. Thank you for watching. And if you like the video, share it and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.